That ain't on me?
You all have questions for LeBron?
I'm ready.
Here he comes the other way. There's your first James Jam of his career.
Reigning NBA MVP Kevin Garnett gives LeBron James the nickname The Gift.
And they want me to, to carry the torch to the league. I have no problem with doing that.
4-3. James scores with 2.2 to go. And there's the buzzer. The San Antonio Spurs are NBA champions once again. Their fourth title in 9 years.
The Orlando Magic have defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers in 6.
Fatigue makes a coward of us all, and LeBron James was asked to do so many chores for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Ultimately, that's too much of a responsibility for one player.
I'm looking forward to the summer of 2010 to see what may happen.
The Boston Celtics with the huge upset. They advance to the conference finals. And Cleveland fans wondering if that's the last time he'll take off a Cavalier jersey.
Well, it's been a day of limousines, private jets, and celebrities parading in and out of Cleveland. The LeBron James Derby off to the races.
We try to put him in a New York state of mind. Hopefully it worked out.
At the end of the day, there's less pressure in New Jersey. Obviously has the relationship with Jay-Z.
I said more than a week ago, I think LeBron James ends up in Chicago.
He's not going to leave his home state and the team closest to his hometown. He's not going to run out on his people.
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
It was a transcendent moment in sports. One of those events in time that takes what was before and completely changes the course of the years that follow. LeBron James's decision to leave his hometown to build the league's first player-assembled super team in Miami during the summer of 2010 was one that impacted more people than he could have ever imagined.
He deserves everything he gets. I hope he never wins anything in Miami.
Just hindsight, I would have never called up Larry, called up Magic and said, hey, let's get together and play on one team.
We did not empathize or even consider. It was like Miami was a bubble, bro. We didn't think of anything outside. We were just like, stage, heck yeah. Interview, nailed it.
But we also know you three kings came down here to win championships. Not one, championships.
Not two.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
Just like the three had planned since the summer of 2006, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and reigning league MVP LeBron James were now teammates. But the backlash that followed their uniting in South Beach would quickly paint the trio as public enemy number one in the world of sports. Widely considered the best player in the game of basketball at the time, LeBron became especially targeted by the media. Never in the history of professional sports had we seen the greatest player in their respective game elect to leave at the height of their career to team up with other star caliber players. And as the negativity continued to grow, LeBron, rather than play off the idea of being the bad guy, chose to once again do something unthinkable. He embraced it.
You did great on your Twitter page. Don't think for a minute that I'm not taking mental notes at everyone who took shots at me this summer. Explain.
Ain't nothing to explain. You read it. It's self-explanatory.
What are those mental notes going to translate into?
To a lot of wins.
Beaten up by 6, a steal for LeBron, and look out below. He's hitting ahead for Wade. There he goes. Oh! The house of highlights.
When you start to hear the villain, now you have to be the villain. And I started to buy into it. I started to play the game of basketball at a level or at a mind state that I've never played at before.
LeBron and the Heat proved to be just as dangerous as opponents had feared at times early in their first season together, but still found themselves struggling to find consistency. a result of balancing championship expectations and public negativity while still trying to build team chemistry with the new roster. Oftentimes, it's one specific event, a high-pressure situation or obstacle that must be overcome to finally bring a team together. For the Miami Heat, this would come on December 2nd, 2010, when LeBron and company would return to Cleveland for the first time since the decision, a game that many call the most hostile in NBA history.
LeBron James and the Miami Heat at Quicken Loans Arena on a night unlike any other.
Forward, 6'8" from St. Vincent St. Mary High School, number 6, LeBron James.
Despite the environment surrounding the game, LeBron had been able to score 38 points on the way to a Miami Heat victory on his old floor. But the greatest win of the night came from the way the Heat had been able to come together in the face of it all. It would be the first time Miami had truly looked like a single unit working towards a goal. And as the season continued to ramp up, so did the play of the game's most hated team.
LeBron, full head of steam, banks it in, and he's fouled. And now going to goad the crowd a little bit. Look at him walk over to the front row. It's a clear out around him. Oh! Oh! Reed off to the side. Reed, chased by Fisher, finds James.
In their first season together, the Heat had managed to capture the number 2 seed in the East, finishing with 58 wins in the 2011 season. LeBron hadn't missed a beat in Miami, and despite taking on a lighter offensive load, had still managed to put together a 26-point, 7.5 rebound, and 7 assists per game season, earning a first-team All-NBA selection. Despite the high expectations and unprecedented nightly spotlight LeBron and company had faced, they had found their stride at the perfect time during the regular season, and were now just 16 wins away from officially writing their names in history. Just like LeBron and the Heat, you can win big on Prize Picks, the sponsor of this documentary. Prize Picks is the easiest and most user-friendly way to play daily fantasy sports and player props. Offering an insane amount of options, they feature every sport you can think of, giving you the opportunity to connect with leagues like the NBA, NFL, and MLB like never before. How it works is simple. You pick between 3 and 5 players, and using the insane amount of stats to choose from, predict what their performance will be for a specific game. Prize Picks also features mixed sport entries, meaning you can predict LeBron will score over 30 points while also saying Tom Brady will pass for under 300 yards. The combinations and opportunities for you to mold the experience to fit your sports expertise are endless and allow for a fun and customizable user experience. With all that being said, if you use the link in the description or use code TRICE when you sign up, Prize Picks will match 100% of your deposit up to $100. So consider joining the millions of users who already choose Prize Picks for their daily fantasy sports needs. After a quick first round series that saw the Heat take care of the Philadelphia 76ers 4-1, it wouldn't be deep into the postseason that LeBron and company were faced with their greatest challenge of the season. Waiting in the second round was the veteran-led Boston Celtics, a team that LeBron James himself had never been able to get past in the postseason.
Being a competitor, you want to go against the best. They are the number 1 team for me, challenge-wise, and I'm looking forward to it.
Alongside his new teammates, James would finally get his revenge on the green team from Boston. Thanks to the luxury of not having to carry the team on his shoulders alone, LeBron would combine with Wade to average 58 points per game in the series, an offensive onslaught from the pair that would prove to be too much for the aging Celtics. After just 5 games, the Heat would complete the gentleman's sweep over what many had considered the best team in the East over the past 4 years, with LeBron fittingly closing out Boston via a solo 10-0 run in the closing moments of Game 5.
Wade, James for the lead. James over Pierce. That might be the dagger.
Something should necessarily steal.
LeBron has scored the last 8 points, grabbing this game by the throat. Bosh with 14 against Pierce. LeBron. Miami is going to close it out.
The 2011 Eastern Conference Finals would see Miami match up with a team that many people across the NBA considered the greatest threat to their championship hopes, as the well-rounded Chicago Bulls had managed to win 62 games on their way to the #1 seed. These hopes seemed to be proven true in Game 1, as the Bulls handed Miami their worst loss of the postseason, pulling out a 21-point win in Chicago.
Watson gets it up. Here's Gibson. Yes! And the foul! Gibson soaring over Dwayne Wade.
The Bulls presented a serious challenge to the Heat on paper, but as the series continued, Miami's response would validate what had been the league's biggest fear. They were just too good.
Goes around and stuffs. Haslam with the rebound. Here's James with the stuff. Oh, James with the steal. James. It counts as a foul. Here comes Wade. He scores and a foul. James for 3. Yes. LeBron James from downtown. That will do it. The Miami Heat have come from behind to defeat the Chicago Bulls 83-80. And Miami is headed to the NBA Finals.
With the rest of the league left scrambling for answers, the Heat had looked unstoppable over the course of the postseason thus far, and now there was only one team left in between them and their goal of winning a championship. It had been 4 years since LeBron James had led an undermanned Cleveland Cavaliers team to the NBA Finals in 2007. He had tried to put the team on his back, tried to carry his city to a ring as just a 22-year-old, but quickly realized that at basketball's highest level, it takes a complete unit to win a championship. In some ways, this may have been what influenced his move to South Beach more than anything. The 2011 NBA Finals would be the ultimate parallel of the two ideas. On one side, you had the Heat, who had been assembled with some of the best talent the game had to offer, a player-led power move to bring a championship to Miami. On the other was the classic story of the franchise star in Dirk Nowitzki, who had stayed true to the Dallas Mavericks throughout his career, hungry for another chance at a ring after having lost to a young Wade and the Heat in the 2006 Finals. The series would get off to an expected start, with the heavily favored Heat putting together a 92-84 win over the Mavericks in Miami. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh led the way with a combined 65 points, an offensive workload that Dirk was unable to keep up with in the loss. However, in Game 2, it was clear that the energy of the series was beginning to shift. Despite still being in the comfort of their own arena, the Heat, and specifically LeBron, looked slightly off balance in their second matchup with the Mavericks. Dallas had pulled out a well-rounded performance from not only Nowitzki, but also veterans Sean Marion and Jason Terry, with their experience proving to be invaluable in the series. Wade was having flashbacks to 2006, on his way to a playoff-high 36 points in an effort to put Miami up 2-0. But down the stretch, Dirk would put the game away in the closing moments.
Back to Nowitzki, lefty layup, banks it in, and the game is tied. Terry to Nowitzki, puts up the three, puts it in! Dallas goes up by 3 with 26.7 remaining. One of the most incredible comebacks in NBA Finals history.
They put Bosh on Nowitzki.
possession. 7 to shoot. Nowitzki drives, goes underneath, lefty layup, banks it in with 3.6 remaining.
Nowitzki's 7 points in the final minute should have been the headline of Dallas's upset Game 2 victory. But it was LeBron's performance that seemed to gain the most attention. Although he had still scored a respectable 20 points, James had gone without a made field goal in the fourth quarter, an inexcusable stat for someone that many considered the league's best player, especially in a game where the Heat had entered the final quarter up by 4.
You know, offensively, we've been out of rhythm before. You know, and it's at the end of the day, we hang our hats on our defense. That's not our defense, not at all. So, gotta do a better job being more in tune.
The Heat would respond well with a 2-point Game 3 win in Dallas, but it was clear that something was still off with LeBron. He had still been able to contribute in a big win to go up 2-1 in the series, but still seemed passive in the closing moments, willing to take a back seat to the other 2 members of the Big Three. Now with the opportunity to bury Dallas 3-1 on the table, you would think that LeBron would be pressing to win the first ring of his career. But instead, something different took place.
As Wade took over with the scoring, James, tough shot, that won't go. That's 8 offensive rebounds already on a number of passes. Terry don't get along. There comes a point where you've got to stop.
After missing his first couple looks from the field, James appeared to settle into a role as a facilitator, which led to a big first half performance from Wade and Bosh, but left LeBron as a non-factor early on. He would finish the first half with just 4 points and 3 rebounds, but thanks to his co-stars, the Heat had taken a 2-point lead into the locker room. However, as Dallas adjusted their defense, LeBron would try to once again assert himself more in the third quarter, but was unable to get anything going as he shot just 2 for 6 in the quarter. As the Heat carried a 4-point lead into the fourth, it seemed like despite James's struggles, they still had a chance to pull off the series-defining win. That is, until Dirk Nowitzki put the Mavericks on his back.
Haslam right up on him. He's going too early. Drives underneath, layup, he puts it in! Nowitzki makes it a 3-point game. Timeout Miami.
As Dirk poured in 10 points in the fourth to take his total to 21, James had seemingly faded off the court, not only failing to make a shot in the final quarter, but turning it over twice in key possessions down the stretch. In a performance that surprised even the most established LeBron haters, James had totaled just 8 points on 3 for 11 shooting with 4 turnovers in what could have been a pivotal Game 4 win.
You know, I got to do a better job of, be more assertive offensively. You know, if I'd had 8 points and we won the game, I could be satisfied. I don't really care about that. So the fact that I could have did more offensively to help our team, that's the angry part about it and myself.
It never seemed as if the Heat were able to move on from their fumbled opportunity in Game 4. And while the series would travel back to Miami, it appeared as if the Heat had left their swagger back in the Lone Star State. After having reported flu-like symptoms in Game 4, something that Wade and LeBron had infamously been seen mocking in between games, Dirk and the Mavericks were clearly ready to make a statement both on and off the court.
Well, I just thought it was a little childish, a little ignorant, but it's not going to add anything extra to me. This is the NBA Finals. If you need an extra motivation, you have a problem.
Right on cue with the defense, and Kidd, left-handed finish. Marion goes right at James. Oh, nice spin move. Nowitzki, back-to-back jumpers.
Miami would never regain control of the series, dropping back-to-back double-digit losses in Games 5 and 6 to lose their first attempt at a title together. In what many have called the greatest upset in NBA Finals history, Dirk had been able to lead his franchise to a championship over one of the most stacked teams the league had ever seen. It was seen as a fitting result by a majority of the sports world. To them, the villain had finally lost to the good guys, with James averaging just 17.8 points per game during the series, the greatest drop-off in average of points from the regular season to the NBA Finals in league history, something many thought his legacy would never recover from.
You know, I'm out there to be a game changer, and I didn't make enough game-changing plays. I just know I didn't play well. I could have played down the stretch better. I didn't have enough game-changing plays like I know I'm capable of having. Plays where it just shifted the whole game. I don't remember having one of those plays in the finals.
We'll never know exactly what happened to LeBron in the 2011 finals. In hindsight, he was just 26 years old and trying to still learn how to win, facing unimaginable pressure to perform. But the facts of the time are simple. He had once again fallen short, this time with an elite pair of co-stars next to him. And something needed to change if he was ever going to win that elusive championship. Little did the world know that it was this moment that would change the course of LeBron's career forever.
The NBA's collective bargaining agreement expires midnight Thursday, and if there's no deal by then, well, the owners could impose a lockout.
You're talking about players getting 57% of the revenue, whereas owners are getting approximately 43%. So that's really where they're butting heads right now.
While the 2011 NBA lockout would delay the start of the regular season until December, the extra time away from league play actually benefited LeBron, allowing him to do something he desperately needed: rebuild himself both on and off the court.
You know, after the finals, I sat in my room for 2 weeks, did absolutely nothing, talked to absolutely nobody.
What'd you learn?
I got to this point by playing this game a certain way. You know, getting back to me loving the game and having fun with the game. You know, I think that's where, you know, just bad habits picked up over the course of the season, because my whole season was about trying to prove people wrong, and that's not how I play the game of basketball. We'll see. We'll see. We get the season started soon, so I got a lot of tricks in my bag, so I'm a better player than I was last year.
Looking to push, alley-oop to James!
Again, contesting every shot. We're going for three again! Yes, you know, as we said, when he gets hot, comes off baseline.
Oh, he does it again! And he goes right over Lucas.
Dwayne Wade with another steal. 3-on-1, James! LeBron drops the anvil.
LeBron works behind it to put up a wild shot. Oh, please! Unbelievable! Not from this world. LeBron with a takeaway by himself. Oh, yeah.
That second year, yeah, I think he was on another planet. And it got to the point where we were just kind of just watching him do his thing right now, because he's just, I don't know what was going on. I mean, he wasn't missing. He made it easy.
Averaging 27 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists per game on the season, LeBron would become just the 4th player in NBA history to be named MVP while playing for 2 separate teams. His performance had once again helped lead the Heat to a top seed in the postseason, winning 46 games in the lockout-shortened season. However, with a clearer vision of what it would take to reach their goal, the Heat knew that the journey was far from finished. As the playoffs got underway, LeBron would continue his elite play, helping lead the Heat to a 4-1 series win over the New York Knicks in round 1, and demonstrating to the rest of the world that his mentality in this year's postseason would be completely different from years past.
It's the finish and a foul! Against Anthony. Puts up a 3.
The other way to LeBron.
Round 2 would present a new opponent for Miami. The Indiana Pacers had secured their spot as a 3 seed in the East, building a contender around talented forwards Danny Granger and Paul George, along with a defensive anchor in 7'2" Roy Hibbert. And now, they believed they could dethrone the Heat as conference champions.
Their offensive capabilities, their depth inside in, their ability to rebound. We're going to have our hands full. We're going to have our work cut out for us, but that's what the playoffs are about.
Game 1 saw the Heat pull off a 9-point win in American Airlines Arena to go up 1-0, dampening the spirits of the hungry Pacers. However, midway through the game, Miami would lose all-star Chris Bosh to an abdominal strain, a major blow to the team's front court. With LeBron and Wade forced to carry more of the load offensively, and Indiana using their well-rounded offensive attack to wear down the Heat, the Pacers would pull out a surprising Game 2 win in Miami, followed by a convincing 19-point blowout over the Heat in Game 3 to make the series 2-1. While James had still been able to put up decent numbers, his team was now facing the possibility of going down 3-1 in a Game 4 on the road, and all eyes were on LeBron to see how he would respond to the challenge.
Miami needs something to ignite them. James coming to the basket. There they go. Many have said LeBron needs to have a Cleveland-type LeBron game. Score 40. Carry the team.
James's 40-point, 18-rebound, and 9-assist performance would not only give Miami the edge in the must-win Game 4, but it actually shifted the series momentum once again. The Heat would rally around their MVP 2 nights later in Game 5, as he poured in another 30-point near triple-double to lead Miami to a convincing 115-83 victory that forced an elimination Game 6. Despite being in front of their home crowd, the confidence of the Pacers had clearly taken a hit after the blowout loss, and a combined 69-point outburst from LeBron and Wade would officially end Indiana's season. Not only was this series the first true test of the postseason for Miami, but it had also been the perfect challenge for them to have to overcome. Despite missing a key member of their team, they had been able to adjust and pull out a hard-fought series victory over one of the best teams in the East. Now, as they prepared for the conference finals, waiting for them would be a familiar foe looking for revenge, and it would be one of the greatest battles of LeBron's career. Still not over the loss in the conference semifinals the year prior, the Boston Celtics were back for revenge once again in the 2012 playoffs. With Miami still missing forward Chris Bosh from the previous series, the Celtics were on high alert for a potential upset opportunity. Still, LeBron and company would start the series off strong, experimenting with a small ball lineup that featured James at the 4 and allowed him to exploit the mismatches on the perimeter. This led to a 32-point, 13-rebound performance by LeBron in a Game 1 win in Miami, followed by him having an equally impressive showing in Game 2. James would score 34 points and grab 10 rebounds to help the Heat pull off the largest playoff comeback in franchise history, as the Heat would pull away in overtime to go up 2-0 in the series. Despite being in a deficit, the Celtics were hungry to turn things around as the series shifted to the north. The aging core in Boston was aware that this may be their last opportunity to make a run at the NBA Finals, and they were willing to go down swinging.
Pierce straight on 3. Bang! Pierce lobs it to Garnett. Perfect pass and the finish. As the Miami Heat's lead is cut to 2-1. Boston Celtics take Game 3 here on their home floor.
Just 2 nights later in Game 4, the Celtics would once again come up big on the parquet floor, as Rondo led the way with 15 points and 15 assists to steal a gritty overtime win.
It's great basketball. I mean, it's great competition. That's what this is all about. We didn't come into the series thinking we was going to sweep them, and I know they didn't, feel the same way. So, we wanted to get at least one up here. We didn't. But we headed home, and we get an opportunity to play again. But this the playoffs is all about.
Game 5 saw Chris Bosh make his series debut for the Heat, coming off the bench in an effort to get him re-established in the on-court rotation. This would provide an extra spark to Miami in the opening half, but didn't fully make up for the team's slow offensive start. In fact, outside of LeBron and Wade, the rest of the Heat would shoot a combined 11 for 38 from the field on the night. This opened the door for a big performance from Boston's Kevin Garnett, who poured in 26 points and 11 rebounds, while also altering the entire game with his defense in the paint. The Celtics would rally around their veteran leader, shocking the basketball world by pulling off a 94-90 win in Miami. After taking 3 straight losses, the Heat now found themselves facing an elimination Game 6 on the road in Boston.
This is bad. This is very, very bad, because it's one thing to go out. It's another thing entirely to go out the way they look like they're going to go out. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not picking them to win Thursday night. I'm not doing it.
As Game 6 drew closer, everyone around LeBron could see that his mood had shifted. He had seen what it was like to lose in this situation before, especially to Boston, and still had a bitter taste from his showing in the finals the previous season. He was now once again faced with a legacy-defining moment, one that many people across the world were watching how he would respond to. As always, there were a fair share of doubters, but with his season and hopes at a championship on the line, LeBron would rise to the occasion better than ever before.
James blows past Pearson, throws it down. Having to guard LeBron James. James with the jump shot is good. Clock down to 3. Difficult shot from James. Gets it inside, deflected. Celtics sloppy. They've got 4 turnovers. James on the run. Gets inside. Count it and 1.
I think I started the game like 8 for 8. Every time I was shooting, it just felt so perfect, and it was barely touching the net, like going straight through like a bird, just go straight through the water. It got to a point where I was just out there trying to get one leg off the wrong foot, bump fades off my right shoulder. I am not even a right shoulder bump fade guy.
Turns, little jump hook, won't go. James comes flying in and throws it down.
When the game ends, I'm literally like sad. Like I want to go again. I could literally go again. I could play a whole game right after the game ends.
Over the span of 45 minutes, James would craft what many consider the greatest performance of his career, silencing his critics on his way to 45 points and 15 rebounds while leading Miami to a 19-point win in TD Garden. With the season on the line, LeBron had been relentless, staying in attack mode while shooting a ridiculous 73% from the field on 26 shots to quiet the sold-out Celtics crowd. Not only did this showing force a Game 7 back in Miami, but it served as a public service announcement to everyone who had called James out for his lackluster performances the previous postseason. This was a new LeBron, and he was going to carry the Heat to a championship by any means necessary.
I hope now you guys can stop talking about LeBron and that he doesn't play in big games. He was pretty good tonight, so now that's to bed. We can go ahead and play Game 7.
Riding the momentum of the big Game 6 win, the Heat would complete their comeback 2 nights later in Miami, as LeBron would have his 4th 30-point 10-rebound game of the series to secure the victory. This series may have marked the end for the Big Three in Boston, but the experience it provided the Heat would be a major turning point in their journey. Once again, James and company had been able to come together in the face of adversity, this time in a way that saved their season, and now they were headed to their 2nd straight NBA Finals. While Miami's matchup in the 2011 Finals had been a veteran-savvy and experienced Dallas squad, the 2012 Finals would feature a completely different type of opponent. Just 4 years removed from being relocated from Seattle to Oklahoma City, the Thunder had established themselves as a powerhouse in the West, and they had done so via a talented young core that consisted of 3 future MVPs. Kevin Durant, a near 7-foot forward with a scoring ability unlike anything the game had seen before. Russell Westbrook, a fiery athletic guard who played with relentless intensity. And James Harden, a crafty scoring machine off the bench in just his 2nd season, all combined to lead a dangerous OKC squad into their first Finals appearance in franchise history. Although the Heat were heavy favorites entering the series, the Thunder would prove early on that they weren't to be taken lightly, as in Game 1, Durant would put on a show in his NBA Finals debut.
Something he's still bitter about as Durant throws it down. It does. Durant for three. Bang! Durant to the basket, lays it in. What a long stride.
In one of the most shocking upsets in recent finals history, Oklahoma City would steal Game 1, pulling off a second-half comeback that left the Heat stunned as the buzzer sounded. LeBron had managed to put together a strong 30-point performance in the loss, but the all-around team effort by the young Thunder had secured an early series lead and immediately put the Heat on high alert. They weren't gonna be able to take OKC lightly. Fully aware of how dangerous the Thunder could be, the Heat entered Game 2 focused on regaining their footing in the series. Miami's Big Three would combine for 37 points in the first half, helping to build as much as a 17-point lead over the Thunder on their way to a 100-96 win to even the series. Game 3 would once again see the losing team make a comeback in the second half, only this time it was Miami who would claw back from a 10-point deficit at halftime. After watching Durant and Westbrook dominate the first 2 quarters, it was the league MVP who would lead a big fourth quarter run to secure the victory.
James the drive, count it and one. Wade kicks it out, James for three, puts it in. James puts his head down, drives inside and puts it in, off the glass.
I told you guys last year I didn't make enough game-changing plays, and that's what I kind of pride myself on. I didn't do that last year in the finals, so I'm just trying to make game-changing plays, and whatever it takes for our team to win, just trying to step up in the key moments and be there for my teammates.
Game 4 was a make-or-break game for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who jumped out to a 14-point lead in the first quarter and led by as many as 17 in an effort to avoid going down 3-1. Westbrook was on absolute fire, attacking relentlessly all game long on his way to 43 points in an effort to keep OKC afloat. However, once again Miami would put together a run in the second half, with LeBron scoring 16 of his 26 points in the final 2 quarters. With the game tied and less than 3 minutes remaining, James, who had been dealing with severe leg cramps in the fourth, would have the ball in his hands with the opportunity to take the lead.
James with 5 to shoot, tries a three, bang! LeBron James from downtown!
The Heat would go on to take a 104-98 victory over the Thunder to all but seal the series with a 3-1 lead. LeBron had once again proven that he was willing to carry his team to a win when it mattered most, and now he and Miami were 1 win away from an NBA championship.
We come out with the mindset like we've come out throughout the playoffs. We're going to give ourselves a good chance to win, and that's all we can ask for.
There's nobody that's been more scrutinized than LeBron. Nobody in the league who's supposed to win it more than LeBron is supposed to win it. And having gone through what they went through last year, it's sort of a sweet relief type of moment.
As the 2 teams prepared for Game 5 in Miami, there was a sense of urgency in the Heat locker room. It was time for them to finally finish the job. In a game where they dominated the first 3 quarters and never trailed, Miami's Big Three and sharpshooter Mike Miller would combine for 93 points, as James put up a 26-point triple-double to bury the Thunder once and for all. After facing what he had called rock bottom in his career just 1 year prior, LeBron James and the Heat had put together an incredible season, and now had finally reached the mountaintop.
The Miami Heat are once again NBA champions. LeBron James captures that elusive title he so desperately coveted.
It's everything and more. I dreamed about this opportunity and this moment for a long time, including last night, including today. My dream has become a reality now, and that's the best feeling I ever had.
LeBron's 2012 postseason is considered by many to be one of the greatest individual playoff runs of all time. He had overcome deficits in 3 of the 4 playoff series, averaging 30 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 5.6 assists en route to carrying his team to the championship. He had come up big in the finals, being unanimously named the Bill Russell Finals MVP, courtesy of a stat line that rivaled any other player since Michael Jordan in 1998. And now, after 2 previous failed attempts and taking on what seemed like the entire world when he moved to South Beach, LeBron James was now and forever an NBA champion. Entering year 3 in Miami, LeBron and the Heat had finally shown the world that they were capable of living up to their potential. But as James had said from the moment he signed on 2 summers before, the goal was never to win just one title. In an effort to accomplish this, the franchise had added some important pieces to better surround their big 3, including controversially adding one of the best players from the rival Boston Celtics.
Not sure how this adds up now if Miami now has a big 4, but Ray Allen is bolting Boston to take his 3-point shooting to South Beach.
We're thrilled to have him here in the Miami Heat family, but there's no question we brought him here to be a big part of what we do.
I mean, he'll fit right in with us. I mean, we're a team that likes to, move the ball. It'll add another dimension to our team that can, benefit us.
Miami hit their stride as a team in 2013, putting together one of the most dominant regular seasons in recent memory.
Win or lose time. LeBron against Fareed. Allen for 3. Got it! Ray Allen plus a foul! Kings turnover, a chance to run. Wait for LeBron! Oh, man! Basketball, you got to communicate here. Don't let anything wide open. Post for 3. And Chris Bosh knocks down a huge shot. The steal by Wade. He's got LeBron there off the glass and down the well. That woke up the crowd. With 7. With 5. On the drive. Lays it in. And the winning streak lives on to a sweet 16.
Wade from behind takes it away. Chalmers. Oh, James! Whoa!
It was more than just a basketball game. Every game, like Floyd is there, Ray Ross is there, Khaled is there, Pat Riley's up there sitting with Michael Douglas. You know what I mean? And that's a Tuesday.
After helping the Heat win a franchise record 66 games during the regular season to earn the #1 seed in the East, LeBron James would take home his 2nd straight league MVP award in 2013, falling just 1 vote shy of being the NBA's first ever unanimous selection. The team itself had come together more than ever before over the course of the season, and now looked to take their improved chemistry into the playoffs, where it was now time to defend the championship crown. The road for the Miami Heat's return to a 2nd straight title picked up where they had left off in the regular season, as the team lost only 1 game in the first 2 rounds to defeat the Milwaukee Bucks and Chicago Bulls. This marked their return to a 3rd straight Eastern Conference Finals, only this time their newly established rival in Indiana had once again climbed their way deep into the postseason. Unlike the year before, 2013 had seen a young Paul George emerge as an all-star for the Pacers, and the #3 team in the East were out for revenge.
To allow Ray Allen, the all-time leader in 3-pointers, to miss that wide open 3.
Hibbert on a beautiful setup. George played by Wade. Beautiful pass for the reverse by Hill. Oh, Paul George taking to the rim.
Explosive move here by Paul George.
The Heat had taken advantage of a small ball lineup to get LeBron going offensively, a move that had actually given them the lead down the stretch. Now down by 3 with only 12 seconds remaining, Indiana would be forced to try and draw up a miracle on the road.
Now to 5 seconds. Ball's deflected away. West. George fires for the tie. He got it! George with a 3-pointer to tie the game.
Young rising star Paul George's shot would be enough to send the game to overtime, where he would actually score 8 of his team's 10 points. including the potential game-winning free throws to give Indiana the lead with only 2 seconds left. Miami would be forced to call a timeout, looking for a big play of their own to avoid the upset, a moment their MVP had been ready for.
Gets it in. Here's James on the drive for the win. And Miami coming away with a 1-point overtime victory.
LeBron's game winner would give him 30 points on the night, narrowly keeping the Heat afloat in Game 1 of the series. Still, Indiana had proven that they had what it takes to pull off the upset in the series, and were a legitimate threat to Miami's back-to-back hopes. What would follow would be an intense 7-game series, with the Pacers determined to show the world that they belonged on the same stage as the star-studded Heat.
Here comes George, got the step and stops one move and counts on the foul.
We are seeing a superstar in the making here with Paul George.
On the third, here's James with a long three. It's good! LeBron comes right back and then let me say something to George. And George in the face of Bosh, serving up a facial. Here's Cole for the alley-oop.
As the dust settled, the Miami Heat would pull off a hard-fought ticket to the NBA Finals, having held off an Indiana comeback attempt to secure the title of conference champs. LeBron had continued his steady play, averaging 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists throughout the series, including a pivotal Game 5 performance where he scored 16 points in the third quarter to secure the win. The other two members of the Big Three had struggled offensively, especially in the last couple games of the series, resulting in James having to take on the responsibility of carrying more of the load offensively. His performance during the series was once again a statement by LeBron that he was more than capable of this responsibility, even with his all-star teammates. Now heading to their third straight NBA Finals, the Heat were only 4 wins away from successfully defending the championship crown.
Great job, man. Hey, man, I love how you're on 15 minutes, man. Stay that way, man. Stay that way. We're going to drive these guys. This is going to be your league in a little while. But I appreciate you giving us this year.
6 years after Tim Duncan and the San Antonio Spurs had swept a young LeBron and the Cavaliers to win their 4th NBA championship, the veteran Spurs had made their return to basketball's biggest stage, and were now looking to once again bring the Larry O'Brien Trophy back to the state of Texas. Although the Heat had been able to make it back to the NBA Finals, their offensive struggles from the previous round would carry over into the championship series, something that played a major part in the Spurs pulling off a 4-point upset win in Miami for Game 1.
Parker with a spin move. Oh, what a pretty play from Tony Parker.
Needing to bounce back quickly, LeBron and the Heat would respond with a grinded-out 19-point win in Game 2, which saw nobody on either team score more than 20 points. Miami had still gotten off to a slow start, but picked up their production in the second half, with James adding an exclamation point, pulling off an iconic block in the fourth quarter.
Oh, what a block from James! Throws it back at Splitter, who is ready to dunk.
Things really got interesting in Game 3, where the Spurs would respond with a dominant performance of their own. The Heat Big Three would be held to just 43 combined points, as a well-rounded attack from San Antonio would outpace Miami on its home floor, an onslaught that would be led by none other than third-year sniper Danny Green, who was on his way to a finals record shooting performance.
It's good! Danny Green! This is an inspiring performance by the Spurs. Green tries a three. Oh! Danny Green does it again!
Green's 27 points courtesy of 7 threes made was enough to hand Miami its worst loss of the postseason, as the Heat would lose by 36 points to go down 2-1.
You know, we got to regroup and figure out what we did wrong, which was a lot of things, and get ready for Game 4.
As the two teams tipped off for Game 4, you could see the Heat were desperate to set the tone early, unwilling to allow themselves to fall down 3-1. LeBron was especially aggressive, attacking the Spurs defense downhill and establishing himself early on.
Throws it ahead to Cole, who has played well in his time. James down the lane, lefty layup, backs it in.
Great block out by Dwayne Wade on splitter.
James to the basket. A power move from James. That time, first jump shot of the night. Again, he hit 3 layups.
As the night rolled on, James's big three teammates finally had breakout games of their own, as Wade and Bosh combined for 52 points to help Miami pull out the wire-to-wire win. LeBron had his best game of the series thus far, scoring 33 points and grabbing 11 rebounds in a game that many people thought could be the end of Miami's back-to-back hopes. The Heat had now regained home court advantage, and the series was back at square one, all tied up 2-2.
Best of 3, man. We got an opportunity to take a commanding lead on Sunday, and we gotta be ready for it. So it's an opportunity that we need to cherish.
As is the case for any tied series in the playoffs, Game 5 was pivotal for the momentum of the series. San Antonio had the advantage of a third straight game in their home arena, and was hoping to put the pressure on the Heat with a win.
Another nice entry pass. Duncan throws it down. Ginobili right away looks to shoot. And boy, does that have to feel good for Manu Ginobili. The impression he was hoping for. Green puts it up. Puts it in. Danny Green continues to light it up from downtown, and it's back to 16.
As the Spurs built up as much as a 17-point lead in the first half, the Heat were forced to try and claw their way back into the game, with LeBron, Wade, and Ray Allen all scoring over 20 in an effort to close the gap. Miami would eventually cut the lead to just 1 midway through the third quarter, but San Antonio would once again respond, this time with a 19-1 run to blow the game wide open. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili had combined for 50 points, and Danny Green had come up huge for the Spurs yet again, knocking down 6 threes on his way to passing Ray Allen's record for the most threes in an NBA Finals. Now with the series shifting back to South Beach, it was Miami who was on the brink of elimination, and they would need back-to-back wins to secure the championship, something they hadn't been able to do since the second round. Game 6 in Miami was destined to be a fight to the finish from the very beginning. With their backs against the wall, the Heat knew they had to play a near-perfect game to stay alive in the series. The first half would be a back-and-forth exchange of blows by both teams, with San Antonio pulling away slightly in the second quarter thanks to a 13-point outburst by Tim Duncan. As the second half got underway, it appeared like Miami's hopes at a championship were fading before their eyes, with the Spurs making yet another run, trying to take the fire out of the Heat.
James trying to find some room. Stolen by Leonard. Leonard ahead of the pack, drives inside, and banks it in with a foul. It was the largest lead of the game. Parker down the lane, layup won't go. Duncan and a foul.
Despite being down by as much as 12, LeBron would come out of the break before the fourth quarter looking like a man determined to not see his season end without a ring. In the face of yet another failed NBA Finals attempt, James would respond the way he had all postseason long.
James on the flush. Miller has only one sneaker on. Miller, bang! James on the drive, leans in, banks it in, tie game.
Even though LeBron had put up 14 points in the fourth quarter on his way to a 32-point triple-double, the Spurs had still managed to stay in front with the game winding down. Enough so that with only 30 seconds remaining, Heat fans could actually be seen leaving the arena with their team down 5. It seemed that Miami's hopes at a repeat were all but over in American Airlines Arena, until the unthinkable happened.
There's a three, way off. Rebound tipped, still loose, picked up by Miller. Back out to James, another three. It's good! James knocks it down. 2-point game 20 seconds remaining. Should Miami go for the three right away? Just attack the basket. James catches, puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound, Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
I heard him, man. That's the only thing I heard, to be honest with you. CB. I didn't hear anything else, and in my mind it went a lot slower, but when I watch it on replay, I'm like, there's no way I could. I don't know, but I distinctly heard him, and I could see his eyes and his facial expression running back, like backpedaling.
Ray Allen's legendary shot had not only sent the game to overtime, but it saved the entire series for Miami, sparking new life into the Heat as they pulled out a 103-100 win to force a Game 7.
Fight to the end, man. We fight. To the end, man.
To the last second.
To the last second.
To the last man.
To the last man.
We fight.
Riding the momentum of the Game 6 miracle, LeBron and the Heat would take advantage of their newfound opportunity, locking in on both ends of the floor for Game 7. LeBron would completely take over the game, scoring 37 points, tied for the most ever by a player in an NBA Finals Game 7, and dropping a triple-double to help carry his team to the victory. After it had seemed impossible, the Miami Heat were now back-to-back NBA champs.
It's back-to-back titles for the Heat. The 2013 NBA championship resides once again in Miami.
This team is amazing. And the vision that I had when I decided to come here is all coming true. Through adversity, through everything we've been through, we've been able to persevere and to win, back-to-back championships. It's an unbelievable feeling.
In a way, the 2013 finals was another example of LeBron finding a way to bury a past demon. The Spurs had been the team who had sent him home in his first effort at a ring, a series that in some ways had started the narrative that he would never be able to win when it mattered most. Fast forward 6 years later, LeBron James now had 2 rings and 2 Finals MVPs to his name. And, for at least a moment, the doubters had nothing left they could say. 2013 had been the first sign of a crack in Miami's armor. Sure, they had just come off an NBA championship, but the series had been too close for comfort, with Wade and Bosh both struggling due to fatigue and injuries. Now as 2014 rolled around, it was more of the same. As the deeper the Heat got into the regular season, it seemed the more they had to fight to hold things together. Dwayne Wade had dealt with some minor injuries the previous season, but in 2014 would miss more than 20 games due to various injuries, with Miami desperately trying to keep him healthy for the playoffs. Other injuries to key members of the Heat rotation throughout the year would force Miami to experiment with 20 different starting lineups in the regular season. In fact, the only consistent factor for the Heat had been LeBron himself. The back-to-back reigning MVP averaged 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists per game in 2014, including a career-high 61-point explosion against the Bobcats in the month of March. His play had allowed for the Heat to put together a 54-win season, securing the number 2 seed as they reached the postseason. But there were still many questions surrounding the production of the rest of the roster, and all eyes would once again be on Miami as they geared up for a run at a three-peat. Despite losing 10 of their last 20 games to end the regular season, the Miami Heat were almost fully healthy at the start of the playoffs, something they would take advantage of, winning 4 straight to sweep Kemba Walker and the Charlotte Bobcats in round 1, followed by a 4-1 series win in round 2 against former Celtics Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in Brooklyn. Miami's Big Three had stayed healthy throughout both series, but it was clear that Wade was nowhere near 100%, averaging just 17 points per game in both rounds. This led to some strong performances by LeBron, who would average 30 points and 5 assists to lead the way for the Heat, but the heightened workload for James would eventually start to show some signs of wear. In the Eastern Conference Finals, Miami had once again been matched up with the Indiana Pacers, but this time the team from the Midwest had secured the #1 seed themselves heading into the postseason. They would give the Heat some problems for the third straight year, as a young Paul George had taken another leap towards stardom, and they would even win Game 1 to start the series. However, despite some entertaining attempts from Indiana's Lance Stevenson to get under LeBron's skin, James would once again be too much for the Pacers.
The drive, the auto put home by James. Here's Cole for the alley-oop. James for 3.
Miami would eventually send the Pacers packing in 6, following the lead of LeBron to their 4th straight NBA Finals, something that had only been done 3 times before them. That being said, there were questions about just how long James would be capable of this level of production, as he was nearly doubling the scoring output of the second highest scorer on the Heat roster. These concerns would be set aside for the time being, as there was only one thing left on the minds of those inside the Heat locker room. Miami was 1 series away from dynasty level status.
We've been fortunate enough to be a part of this 4 straight times. You just can't take these moments for granted. Hasn't really hit us that much yet, because I think we're in it. I think it will once we're done. We're able to look back at what we was able to accomplish as players.
Once again waiting for the Heat in the NBA Finals was the team that had been just 30 seconds from an NBA championship the year before. The Spurs had been waiting an entire year for this moment, and with a young Kawhi Leonard beginning his development as one of the game's best two-way players, the core in San Antonio was back and better than ever.
Ginobili steps back and hits the 3. Diaw on the drive, inside to Duncan.
As the Spurs started clicking offensively, the Heat struggled to find an answer, unable to keep up with the ball movement and well-balanced scoring attack. In the 4th quarter, LeBron would controversially miss the end of the game with leg cramps, all but ending the hopes of a Miami comeback. James had still managed to score 25 points in the first matchup, but once again the Heat failed to provide him with a solid second scoring option, a lingering issue that would change the dynamic of the series from the year prior. Miami would manage to steal Game 2 in San Antonio, led by a big showing from LeBron to gut out a 2-point victory, but once again the Heat failed to have anyone besides James score more than 20 points. Miami fans' greatest fears were realized in Game 3, where in a series that the Heat had already seemed to barely be holding on, Kawhi Leonard would break out in his first step towards stardom.
Leonard again aggressive, count it and 1. Leonard another 3, puts it in, Kawhi Leonard. Leonard finishes strong on the right hand.
Kawhi's ascension to another level in the 2014 Finals would ultimately be the final nail in the coffin of the Miami Heat. In the next 3 games, he would raise his average points to over 23, while grabbing 9 boards and coming up with 2 blocks and steals per game. He would be unleashed on LeBron, and despite James still averaging 28 points per game in the finals, Leonard would make him work for everything he got. Exhausted from the added workload needed to pick up the offensive struggles of the Heat, and now forced to deal with Kawhi on every possession, the Spurs slowly took LeBron out of the series, and eventually were able to put Miami away in 5 games.
We went to 4 straight finals in 4 years, and we're not discrediting what we was able to accomplish in these 4 years. We lost 1, we won 2, and we lost another one, and take 50%, in 4 years, in championships any day. Obviously, you want to win all of them, but that's just the nature of the game. You win some, you lose some. You just got to come back the next year and be better.
There were many questions following the 2014 NBA Finals about what went wrong for the Heat. Miami's core around LeBron had aged quickly during the past 4 seasons, especially his running mate Dwayne Wade. And when met with the experience and consistency of the Spurs, the Heat had finally reached their breaking point. Following their loss in the finals, LeBron James was once again left with a decision to make in the offseason. He had an option to opt out of his contract with Miami that summer, and with the uncertainty surrounding the health of the Heat roster, would decide to once again test free agency to find the best home for his career. Having learned from the backlash in 2010, LeBron would give a much different type of decision 4 years later, and his announcement would once again change the landscape of the entire NBA.
LeBron James picks Cleveland. The decision made, the explanation simple enough. There it is. James' Instagram post, I'm coming home.
It's people that came to me and said, LeBron, you got to do what makes you happy. And I was like, yeah, I think so. And also, I'm going to do what makes my city and my state happy. And that's why I came back. I love you. I'm back.
LeBron James's time with the Miami Heat will forever be one of the most interesting in the history of sports. The never-before-seen amount of publicity and hate, the sold-out arenas, timeless highlight reels, and 4 straight years of classic NBA Finals culminate to make it one of the most iconic runs in modern basketball history. Whether you believe the team underachieved or not, the impact of LeBron in Miami on the world of sports is what makes it a story worth telling. In today's NBA, it's not uncommon to see a player choose their own destiny courtesy of free agency. But in 2010, one of the greatest players the game has ever seen chose to carve his own path and take his career into his own hands. Something that had never been done before, especially by a player of his caliber.
The basketball fan base had an idea of how LeBron's career was supposed to go. He's supposed to stay in Cleveland his entire time and win 6 to 7 rings, right? And he had other ideas for his career.
For the Heat, LeBron would play what was perhaps the most dominant basketball of his career. A perfect blend of skill and athleticism forged in the fire of criticism that made every single performance worth watching. No, he hadn't been able to win 3, 5, or 7 championships in Miami. But in those 4 years, he made South Beach home to some of the greatest basketball in the world, and eventually learned how to be a champion, something that he would eventually give back to a different city, the city that had supported him from the very beginning.
It's over! Cleveland is a city of champions once again! The Cavaliers are NBA champions!
Cleveland! This is for you!